The announcement came through the university's main communication system on a quiet morning. Professor Kelvin's webbed fingers moved across the holographic display as he read the message for the third time. The Galactic Education Council had finally approved something that had never been done before: a student field trip to Earth. The name alone made most beings in the galaxy nervous. It was the legendary Deathworld that somehow managed to produce a spacefaring species. The humans had appeared in galactic society only 50 years ago, and their reputation had grown quickly. They were known for surviving in places where other species needed heavy protection suits. They ate foods that would poison most aliens. They lived on a planet that actively tried to kill everything on it. Professor Kelvin belonged to the Aquari race. His people lived on peaceful water worlds where the biggest danger was a strong current. Like most civilized species in the galaxy, the Aquari had evolved on gentle planets where survival was not a daily battle. The idea of visiting Earth both excited and terrified him. The professor sent out a message to his advanced xenobiology class. Within hours, his communication device was flooded with requests from students wanting to join the trip. He could only take 4 students, and choosing them was difficult. First was Nira, a being made of living crystal from the moon of Prism. Her species came from a world with very low gravity, where the biggest challenge was avoiding floating away during windstorms. Nira was curious about heavy gravity worlds and had written several papers on how different gravity affected life forms. Second was Torvin, who breathed methane instead of oxygen. His world was covered in gentle gas clouds where his people floated like living balloons. The air was always perfect, and the temperature never changed. Torvin wanted to study how life could exist in such chaos as Earth's changing atmosphere. Third was Lima, whose green skin could turn sunlight into food. Her people lived on a planet that was locked in place, with one side always facing their sun. Everything was predictable there. The same amount of light, the same temperature, the same gentle winds. Lima had read about planets that spun and had different weather, but she had never seen one. Last was Bex, an insectoid whose species shared a group mind. Every member of his race knew what all the others were thinking. They lived in perfect harmony, on a world where every creature had its place and purpose. Nothing was ever unexpected. Bex was fascinated by the idea of individual minds making independent decisions in unpredictable situations. The 4 students met with Professor Kelvin in his office 3 days before the trip. The room was filled with water, as was normal for Aquari spaces. The other students wore breathing apparatus that let them speak underwater. "I want to make sure you all understand what we are doing," Professor Kelvin said, his voice creating bubbles. "Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. That is the highest danger rating in our system. No other known inhabited planet rates higher than Class 8. Nira's crystal body flickered with nervous light. "Professor, what exactly makes it so dangerous?" "Everything," Professor Kelvin replied. "The gravity is 3 times what most of us consider safe. The atmosphere is 21% oxygen, which is toxic to most species. The weather changes without warning. The planet has massive storms that can destroy cities. It has earthquakes that split the ground open, volcanoes that shoot melted rock into the sky. And that is just the planet itself." Torvin's gas-filled body shimmered. "What about the life forms?" "The life forms are worse," the professor continued. "Earth has something called an ecosystem, where different species compete for resources. They hunt each other. They fight for territory. They have evolved weapons like claws, teeth, and poison. Some plants can kill you just by touching them. Some animals hunt in groups using tactics." Lima's green skin turned pale. "And humans live there? Humans evolve there," Professor Kelvin corrected. "They are products of this death world. They consider all of this normal. They have no idea how unusual their planet is because they have never known anything else. Bex's compound eyes clicked as he processed this information. How do we observe them safely? We will stay on the orbital research station most of the time, Professor Kelvin explained. The Galactic Science Council built it to study Earth from a safe distance. We might visit one of their surface facilities, but only with full environmental protection and human guides. The students spent the next 3 days studying everything they could about Earth. They read reports from the few scientists brave enough to visit the planet. They watched videos of Earth's surface that had been taken by remote probes. Each piece of information made the planet seem more impossible. They learned that Earth's surface was mostly covered with a liquid that would dissolve many alien species. Humans called it water and they drank it. The planet had no stable climate zones. Instead, it had weather that moved around the planet in giant spinning storms. Sometimes frozen water fell from the sky. Sometimes liquid water fell so hard it could knock a person down. The students read about Earth's day and night cycle. The planet spun completely around every 24 hours, creating periods of light and darkness. During the dark periods, the temperature dropped significantly. Most planets in the galaxy were tidally locked or had very slow rotation. The idea of regular darkness was strange and frightening. On the day of departure, the 4 students met at the university's transport hub. They each carried emergency equipment in case something went wrong. Nira had a gravity compensation device. Torvin had backup breathing apparatus. Lima had artificial light sources. Bex had a communication device that could contact his hive mind. Across interstellar distances, the transport ship was designed for deep space travel. It had heavy shielding and multiple backup systems. Even the journey to Earth was considered risky because they had to travel through areas of space that humans considered normal shipping lanes. During the 3-day journey, the students continued their studies. They learned that humans had spread to dozens of worlds in just 50 years. Every planet they colonized became more livable after humans arrived. They built cities in places where other species needed full environmental suits just to visit. As their ship approached Earth's solar system, the students got their first look at human space technology. There were massive stations orbiting several planets. Ships moved between them carrying cargo and passengers. Everything looked functional, rather than beautiful, as if it was built to survive rather than impress. "Look at that," Torvin whispered, pointing at a human cargo ship. "It has armor plating and defensive weapons." "Why would a cargo ship need weapons?" "Because humans expect to be attacked," Professor Kelvin replied. "They prepare for danger even when they are not expecting it." The orbital research station came into view as they approached Earth. It was a joint project between human and alien scientists, designed to let non-humans study the Deathworld safely. The station was huge, with multiple sections for different atmospheric requirements. As they docked with the station, the students could see Earth through the viewing ports. It was a blue and white ball that looked almost peaceful from orbit. None of them realized they were about to discover just how wrong that impression was. The human who met them at the docking bay was nothing like what the students expected. Commander Jake Torres was tall and moved with easy confidence. He wore only a simple uniform with no environmental protection. His exposed skin showed small scars that would have required medical attention for most species. "Welcome to Earth space," Commander Torres said, with a wide smile that showed his teeth. The alien students had read that humans showing teeth was a friendly gesture, but it still looked threatening to most of them. Professor Kelvin stepped forward, his webbed feet making soft sounds on the metal floor. "Commander Torres, we are grateful for this opportunity. We plan to observe your world from the safety of this station." Commander Torres laughed, a sound that made Bex's wings flutter nervously. "Observe from here? That's like trying to study swimming by looking at pictures of water. If you really want to understand Earth, you need to visit the surface." The 4 students looked at each other with what humans would recognize as panic. "Visit the surface?" The actual Deathworld surface? Is that safe? Nira asked, her crystal body flickering with worried light patterns. Safe is relative, Commander. Torres said. We'll take you to one of our nature preserves. It's about as gentle as Earth gets. Torvin's gas-filled body contracted with fear. What do you mean by as gentle as Earth gets? Well, no active volcanoes, no major predators, stable weather. Commander Torres listed these things as if they were obvious benefits. We'll land in Costa Rica, beautiful place. Perfect for beginners. Professor Kelvin tried to object, but Commander Torres was already walking toward the shuttle bay. Don't worry, Professor. We've got all the safety equipment you'll need. Environmental suits, emergency medical kits, the works. 20 minutes later, the alien students found themselves strapped into a human shuttle that was dropping toward Earth's surface. Through the windows, they could see the planet growing larger. What had looked peaceful from orbit now revealed its true nature. Massive white formations moved across the planet's surface. Commander Torres explained that these were clouds full of water that could dump liquid on them without warning. Below the clouds, the students could see green and brown patches that changed color and texture randomly. Those are forests and grasslands, Commander Torres said. The green parts are where plants grow wild without any control or planning. Lima, whose species lived in perfectly organized growing areas, felt sick. You mean the plants just grow wherever they want? Pretty much, Commander Torres replied. Earth plants compete with each other for space, water, and sunlight. The strong ones survive. The weak ones die. The shuttle shook as it entered Earth's atmosphere. The alien students gripped their seats as forces they had never experienced pushed against their bodies. Commander Torres sat relaxed, as if falling through a toxic atmosphere toward a death world was the most normal thing possible. Bit of turbulence, he said casually. The atmosphere moves around a lot, creates air currents. Bex, whose homeworld had perfectly still air, made a sound like grinding metal. The atmosphere moves? All the time, Commander Torres confirmed. Wind, storms, pressure changes. Keeps things interesting. When they landed, the students got their first real sense of Earth's gravity. Even with their compensation devices, the pull was stronger than anything they had experienced. Every step took effort. Commander Torres jumped out of the shuttle and stretched as if the crushing gravity was refreshing. Welcome to Costa Rica, he announced. One of Earth's garden spots. The alien students looked around in horror. This was supposed to be a garden spot? The sky was blue, which they had read about but never seen. It hurt to look at directly. The air moved constantly, making sounds and pushing against their environmental suits. Nira pointed a crystal finger at a nearby tree. That plant is enormous. How does it support its own weight? Oh, that's just a medium-sized tree, Commander Torres said. Some of them grow much bigger. That one's probably only about 60 feet tall. 60 feet. The students tried to imagine a plant that tall on any of their worlds. It would collapse under its own weight or be blown over by the smallest breeze. Lima watched in fascination and terror as leaves moved in the wind. On her world, plants were carefully tended and protected from any environmental stress. Here, they swayed and bent and somehow survived constant movement. The plants move, she whispered. They have to, Commander Torres explained. If they didn't bend with the wind, they'd break. Earth plants are tough. A sound made all four students freeze. It was a high-pitched noise that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Their universal translators couldn't identify it. Just birds. Commander Torres said. Flying animals, they're singing. Flying animals? Torvin's voice was barely audible. Animals that move through the air? Sure, Earth has thousands of species that fly. Birds, bats, insects. Pretty normal stuff. The students watched in amazement as small creatures moved through the air above them. They changed direction instantly, landed on tiny branches that bent under their weight, then took off again. The idea of animals moving in 3 dimensions without any support structure was beyond their understanding. Professor Kelvin was taking readings with his instruments. Commander Torres, this atmosphere is 21% oxygen. That concentration would cause toxic reactions in most galactic species. Yeah, we know oxygen is pretty reactive stuff, Commander Torres said. It's why things rust and why fires burn, but our bodies need it. We actually die without it pretty quickly. Bex was studying the ground, which was covered with dead plant material. This organic matter is decomposing. On my world, we immediately recycle all organic waste. Here it just rots. That's how the ecosystem works, Commander Torres explained. Dead things break down and feed the soil, which feeds the plants, which feed the animals. It's all connected. The idea of an uncontrolled cycle where death led to life, which led to death again, was horrifying to species that lived in planned, stable environments. A drop of water hit Nira's environmental suit. Then another. Soon, water was falling from the sky all around them. Rain, Commander Torres said, holding out his hand to catch the water. Pretty light shower. Good for the plants. The alien students huddled together as water fell on them from above. The idea that a planet's atmosphere could randomly dump liquid on its inhabitants was terrifying. What if it happened when you weren't prepared? What if you needed to go somewhere, but the sky was attacking you? This happens regularly? Professor Kelvin asked. Sure, sometimes it rains every day for weeks. Sometimes we go months without rain. Depends on the weather patterns. The students realized that humans lived on a world where they never knew what the sky might do to them. They could not plan around weather because weather could not be predicted with certainty. As they walked through what Commander Torres called a gentle forest, the students documented every horror they witnessed. Plants that grew without permission. Animals that moved freely through 3-dimensional space. An atmosphere that changed its behavior without warning. Ground that was uneven and covered with decomposing organic matter, and this was supposed to be one of Earth's peaceful places. The next day, Commander Torres suggested they visit what he called a typical human educational facility. The alien students expected to see young humans being carefully protected from their world's dangers. They imagined safe, controlled environments, where human children learn from a distance about the threats. Outside, they were completely wrong. The shuttle landed near a building surrounded by open spaces. Commander Torres pointed to the structure with pride. Lincoln Elementary School. About 300 kids aged 5 to 11 study here. Professor Kelvin checked his readings again. This facility has no environmental barriers. No protective shields. The young humans are exposed to full atmospheric conditions. Of course, Commander Torres said, looking confused. Why would we shield kids from normal air? The alien students walked toward the building, their instruments recording everything. The school was built with thin materials that would not protect anyone from serious environmental threats. Large openings in the walls let the dangerous atmosphere flow freely inside and outside. Those openings, Nira pointed with a crystal finger. They offer no protection. Windows, Commander Torres explained. Kids like to see outside. Natural light is good for them. As they approached the building, a loud sound filled the air. It was a mix of high-pitched noises, shouting, and what sounded like small explosions. The alien students stopped moving, their survival instincts telling them to hide. What is that noise? Torvin asked, his gas-filled body contracting with fear. Commander Torres smiled. Recess, the kids are playing outside. Playing outside. The alien students could not understand these words together. Playing meant safe, controlled activities. Outside meant the dangerous environment of a death world. How could both be true at the same time? They walked around the building and saw something that would give them nightmares for years. Dozens of small humans were running around in the open air. They were breathing the toxic atmosphere directly into their bodies. Their skin was exposed to harmful radiation from the local star. And they were moving at speeds that would challenge trained athletes from most worlds. Are those really human children? Lima asked in a whisper. Yep, ages 6 to 10 mostly, Commander Torres said. Pretty typical bunch. The alien students watched, in growing horror as the small humans performed feats that should have been impossible. One group was climbing a metal structure that rose 15 feet into the air. They moved hand over hand, supporting their full body weight in the crushing gravity. Bex's compound eyes tracked the movement. Those young ones are demonstrating advanced spatial reasoning and physical coordination. On my world, such skills would require years of specialized training. Kids pick it up pretty fast, Commander Torres said. They start climbing as soon as they can walk. A small human fell from the climbing structure and hit the ground hard. The alien students prepared to witness a medical emergency. Instead, the child stood up, looked at a scrape on his knee that was actually bleeding, and climbed back up. That child is injured, Professor Kelvin said urgently. Should we not provide medical assistance? Commander Torres looked where the professor was pointing. Tommy, he's fine. Just a little scrape. Kids get those all the time. The alien students could not process this information. A creature had fallen from a height, sustained tissue damage that was bleeding, and continued its previous activity. On any of their worlds, such an incident would require immediate medical attention and probably psychological counseling. But more horrors were happening around them. A group of small humans was engaged in what appeared to be combat training. They were throwing a spherical object at each other with considerable force while running at high speeds. Each child had to track multiple moving targets, calculate intercept courses, and perform complex motor functions simultaneously. What form of military exercise is this? Bex asked. Dodgeball, Commander Torres replied. It's a game. Kids love it. A game. The aliens watched as human children willingly subjected themselves to training that would challenge their best military units. They moved in 3 dimensions, processed multiple threats at once, and made split-second decisions while under physical stress. One child caught the ball after it had been thrown with significant force. The impact should have broken bones, but the small human held on and immediately threw it at another target with deadly accuracy. Their reaction times, Nira observed, are faster than most adult beings I know. Kids have great reflexes, Commander Torres agreed. They need them. They need them. The casual way he said this made the alien students realize something terrible. Human children were not being protected from their death world. They were being trained to survive it. Another group of children was playing what their translator called tag. The aliens watched as one small human pursued several others across uneven terrain filled with obstacles. The pursuing child had to track multiple moving targets while navigating complex, 3-dimensional space and maintaining high-speed locomotion. The child being chased suddenly changed direction by 90 degrees while running at full speed. Move should have resulted in serious injury, but the small human maintained balance and continued moving. How do they change direction so quickly? Torvin asked. Practice, Commander Torres said. Kids run around like that from the time they can walk. They learn balance, speed, agility. It's all natural to them. Natural. The alien students were beginning to understand that what they considered advanced survival skills, humans considered basic childhood development. A bell rang, and all the small humans immediately stopped their activities and moved toward the building in organized groups. The transition from chaotic play to structured movement happened instantly, showing a level of discipline and social coordination that impressed even Bex's hive-minded species. How do they respond so quickly to audio commands? Bex asked. They learned that in kindergarten, Commander Torres said. Follow directions, work in groups, take turns, basic social skills. Inside the building, the alien students observed human children in what were called classrooms. The small humans sat in rows, but even this apparently calm activity revealed disturbing capabilities. They watched 6-year-old humans manipulate small tools with precision that would challenge most adult aliens. They processed symbolic information at speeds that suggested advanced cognitive development. They worked together on complex problems while maintaining individual thought processes. One teacher asked her students to solve what appeared to be a tactical problem involving resource distribution. The human children immediately began calculating optimal solutions while considering multiple variables. Their small minds processed information and generated strategies with frightening efficiency. These children, Professor Kelvin said quietly, display cognitive abilities that would qualify them as specialists on most worlds. They're just normal kids, Commander Torres replied. Wait until you see what they're like when they get older. During lunch, the alien students watched human children consume substances that would be toxic to most galactic species. They ate plants that had been heated to temperatures that would cause cellular damage. They drank liquids that contained chemicals their bodies somehow processed safely. But most disturbing of all was watching the children interact with each other. They negotiated complex social situations while maintaining individual personalities. They formed temporary alliances, resolved conflicts, and established hierarchies through methods that showed sophisticated understanding of group dynamics. As the day ended, the alien students realized they had witnessed something that challenged everything they thought they knew about childhood development. Human children were not being protected from their Deathworld. They were being prepared to master it. On their third day, Commander Torres decided to show them what he called normal human activities. The alien students had barely recovered from witnessing human childhood, but they agreed to continue their observations. They had no idea that worse revelations were coming. Their first stop was a construction site in the city. As their shuttle approached, the students could see humans working on a massive structure that rose into the sky. Metal beams stretched between concrete pillars, creating a framework that seemed to challenge the laws of physics. That building is over 200 feet tall, Professor Kelvin observed, reading his instruments. Pretty standard office building. Commander Torres said, nothing special about it. Nothing special. The alien students watched as humans moved around on narrow metal beams hundreds of feet above the ground. They carried heavy materials, operated dangerous machinery, and performed complex tasks while death waited one wrong step below them. Nira's crystal body flickered with disbelief. Those humans are working at heights that would require specialized equipment and years of training on any civilized world. Construction work, Commander Torres explained. Most of these guys learned on the job. Takes a few months to get good at it. A few months. The aliens watched as a human worker walked across a beam barely wider than his feet, carrying a tool that weighed more than some entire alien species. He showed no fear, no hesitation. This was just his job. Torvin pointed at another worker who was operating a machine that lifted massive steel beams. That human is controlling forces that could crush him instantly. Where is his backup safety operator? He doesn't need one, Commander Torres said. Good operators can handle that stuff solo. Been doing it for years. The students observed humans working with materials and tools that would be considered weapons of mass destruction on peaceful worlds. They cut through metal with devices that produced temperatures hot enough to melt most alien species. They worked with electricity that could kill them if they made a single mistake. And they did all of this while chatting with each other, drinking beverages, and sometimes even laughing. Their next stop was a place called a hospital. The alien students expected to see humans finally acknowledging the dangers of their world by creating safe healing spaces. Instead, they discovered something that shattered their understanding of biology. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a human medical professional, greeted them in what she called the emergency room. The alien students looked around nervously at the various machines and tools, many of which looked like torture devices. "This is where we treat people who get hurt or sick," Dr. Rodriguez explained. "How often do humans require emergency medical treatment?" Professor Kelvin asked. "Oh, pretty regularly," Dr. Rodriguez said casually. "Accidents, injuries, illnesses. We see maybe 50 people a day in this emergency room alone. 50 people a day. In one small medical facility." The alien students tried to imagine injury rates so high that medical facilities needed to operate continuously just to keep the population alive. Dr. Rodriguez showed them records of recent cases. The students read about humans who had survived injuries that would kill most galactic species, broken bones that healed naturally, diseases that human immune systems fought off without medical intervention, trauma that would require months of recovery for other beings, but humans returned to normal activity in days. "This human survived a fall from 30 feet, Lima read from a medical record. "How is that possible?" "Humans are pretty tough," Dr. Rodriguez said. "We're built to take damage and keep going. Evolution, you know. The weak ones didn't survive long enough to have children. The weak ones didn't survive." The casual way she discussed evolutionary pressure made the alien students realize that every human alive was descended from thousands of generations of survivors. Each generation had been tested by their Deathworld, and only the strongest had lived to reproduce. Bex was studying another record. "This says a human survived poisoning from something called food poisoning. Yeah, happens when you eat something that's gone bad," Dr. Rodriguez explained. "Usually clears up in a few days. The body fights it off. The body fights it off." The aliens learned that human bodies were constantly at war with microscopic invaders. Their immune systems were biological warfare laboratories that would be considered dangerous weapons on most worlds. And humans considered this normal. Their next observation site was something Commander Torres called a sports complex. The alien students prepared for another revelation about human survival training. But they were not prepared for what they actually witnessed. They arrived during something called a basketball game. The alien students watched in horror as two groups of humans engaged in what appeared to be ritualized combat. They ran at high speeds, made physical contact, and fought for control of a spherical object. "This appears to be military training," Vex observed. "Are these soldiers?" "Nope, just college students," Commander Torres said. "They play for fun and scholarships." Fun. The aliens watched as humans threw themselves through the air with no safety equipment. They calculated complex trajectories while moving at high speed. They maintained situational awareness of multiple opponents while executing precise motor functions. One human leaped into the air and threw the ball through a small opening from 20 feet away, while two opponents tried to stop him. The level of physical coordination and mental calculation required was staggering. "How long do they train for this activity?" Professor Kelvin asked. "These guys? They've probably been playing since they were kids. Maybe 10, 12 years of practice." 12 years of practice for what other species would consider an impossible feat of athletics. And humans did it for entertainment. Lima was studying the crowd of humans watching the game. Those humans are emotionally invested in the outcome. Their stress levels are elevated. "Oh yeah, basketball fans get pretty excited," Commander Torres said. "It's a big game." The alien students observed humans experiencing emotional states that would require emergency medical intervention for most species. Their heart rates increased. They shouted at dangerous volume levels. They displayed aggressive behaviors toward strangers, and they did this voluntarily. For fun. After the game, they visited a place called a restaurant. The alien students watched humans consume substances that challenged everything they knew about nutrition and biology. Humans ate plants that had been exposed to extreme heat. They consumed the flesh of other animals. They drank liquids that contained chemicals that would alter brain function in most species. Some humans even requested food that was deliberately made painful to eat. This substance causes burning sensations in the mouth, Torvin observed, reading about something called hot sauce. Yeah, lots of people like spicy food, Commander Torres sighed. The burn feels good to them. The burn feels good. Humans had evolved to enjoy experiences that other species would consider torture. As the day ended, the alien students realized they had witnessed the most disturbing truth yet. Everything they had seen, the dangerous work, the medical resilience, the athletic competitions, the food consumption, humans considered normal daily life. They were not witnessing the extremes of human capability. They were observing average, ordinary humans doing typical human things. And every typical human thing would be considered an extraordinary achievement or a dangerous survival challenge on any other world in the galaxy. On their final day on Earth, Commander Torres brought the alien students to witness what he called a graduation ceremony. The students expected to see young humans completing their survival training and finally being deemed ready for safer environments. They could not have been more wrong about what graduation actually meant. The ceremony took place at a large educational complex called State University. Thousands of humans gathered in an outdoor area, sitting on hard surfaces under the direct radiation of Earth's star. They seemed comfortable breathing the toxic atmosphere and enduring the unpredictable weather. These young humans have completed their education, Professor Kelvin observed. Now they will be protected from the dangers of your world. Commander Torres laughed, the sound still making the alien students nervous after several days on Earth. Protected? No, now they're ready to go out and face even bigger challenges. Some of them are headed to space. Space. The alien students felt a chill that had nothing to do with Earth's unstable temperature. Humans who had survived childhood on a Deathworld were now preparing to venture into the galaxy. They watched as hundreds of young humans received what were called diplomas. Each graduate had spent years learning skills that would be considered advanced specializations on other worlds. They had studied mathematics that most alien species found difficult. They had learned to analyze complex problems and create solutions under pressure. That human studied something called engineering, Nira said, reading from the program. What does that involve? Building things that work, Commander Torres explained. Bridges, buildings, machines, spacecraft. Figuring out how to make stuff that won't break under stress. The alien students realized that human engineers were trained to create structures that could survive on a Deathworld. Everything they built had to withstand forces that would destroy most alien constructions. No wonder human technology seemed so robust compared to equipment from peaceful worlds. Lima was reading about another graduate. This one studied medicine. They learned to heal injuries and fight diseases. Among other things, Commander Torres sighed. Human doctors have to deal with a lot of different problems. Our bodies are complicated, and Earth keeps trying new ways to hurt us. Human medicine was not just about maintaining health in a stable environment. It was about repairing damage from a world that constantly attacked its inhabitants. Human doctors were essentially combat medics who specialized in treating casualties from an ongoing war between life and the planet. Was fascinated by another field of study. This says business management. They learned to coordinate group activities, managing people, resources, projects, Commander Torres confirmed. Getting things done when you don't know what problems you'll face. The alien students began to understand that human education was not about learning specific skills for predictable situations. It was about developing the ability to adapt, improvise, and solve unknown problems under pressure. As the ceremony continued, they learned about the various paths these human graduates would take. Some would work in what humans called corporations, competing with other humans for resources and success. Competition was built into their economic system, creating constant pressure to improve and adapt. Others would join something called the military, where they would train to fight other humans or defend against threats. The idea that a species would maintain organized groups dedicated to warfare was disturbing to beings from peaceful worlds, but most shocking were the humans who planned to leave Earth entirely. "Those graduates are joining the Space Corps," Commander Torres said, pointing to a group of young humans wearing special uniforms. "They'll be exploring new worlds, establishing colonies, working on space stations." The alien students watched these future space travelers with growing alarm. These humans were products of the most extreme survival training program in the known galaxy. They had grown up on a Deathworld, been educated in combat-level problem-solving, and now they were heading out to spread across the stars. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the human doctor they had met earlier, joined them for the graduation ceremony. She saw the concerned expressions on the alien students' faces. "You look worried," she said. "Something wrong?" Professor Kelvin tried to explain their growing understanding. "We are beginning to realize what this means. Your graduates are not just educated humans. They are survivors of the most challenging training program imaginable." "I suppose you could look at it that way," Dr. Rodriguez said. "Growing up on Earth does teach you to handle problems." Handle problems. The alien students had watched humans handle gravity that should crush them, breathe atmosphere that should poison them, work at heights that should terrify them, and eat food that should kill them. And they called this handling problems. Commander Torres showed them data about human expansion into the galaxy. In just 50 years, humans had established colonies on dozens of worlds. They had built cities in places where other species needed full environmental protection. They had turned hostile environments into livable spaces. "How do you make dangerous worlds safe so quickly?" Torvin asked. "We don't make them safe," Commander Torres said. "We adapt to them. If a world has high gravity, we get stronger. If it has a toxic atmosphere, we build better filters. If it has dangerous weather, we design buildings that can take it." The alien students realized that humans did not terraform worlds to suit themselves. They terraformed themselves to suit the worlds. Every challenge made them stronger, more adaptable, more capable. Nero was studying human space exploration records. "Your species has attempted to colonize worlds that other races avoid. Worlds with extreme conditions." "Sure," Commander Torres said. "Those worlds usually have the best resources. And honestly, after growing up on Earth, most other planets seem pretty easy. Pretty easy. To humans, the rest of the galaxy was less challenging than their home world. As the graduation ceremony ended, the alien students watched young humans celebrate with their families. These celebrations involved activities that would be considered dangerous on most worlds. They threw objects into the air. They embraced each other with enough force to cause injury to most species. They consumed substances that altered their mental states. And they did all of this while planning to spread across the galaxy. Professor Kelvin gathered his students together as they prepared to return to their shuttle. "What have we learned from our visit to Earth?" The four students looked at each other, trying to process everything they had witnessed. "We have learned," Beck said slowly, "that humans are not just survivors of a death world. They are products of it. Every human is essentially a graduate of the most extreme survival program in known space," Nira added. "Their childhood is our nightmare. They do not conquer the galaxy through superior technology," Lima observed. "They succeed because everything else seems simple compared to Earth. And now they are spreading to other worlds," Torvin concluded, "bringing their death world capabilities with them." As their shuttle lifted off from Earth's surface, the alien students looked down at the blue and white planet that had changed. Their understanding of life in the galaxy. They were returning to their home worlds, carrying terrible knowledge, Somewhere in the galaxy was a species that considered catastrophic challenges to be normal daily life. They treated impossible survival situations as childhood games. They had turned adaptation and problem-solving into art forms, and they were just getting started.